3, 2, 1. What up, world? Welcome to another episode of the Father Figure Podcast. I'm your boy, Reggie George, founder of the Father Figure Movement, everything Father Figure. Man, we happy to be back for another episode, man. Happy that y'all tuning in. We happy that y'all subscribing. We also happy that you liking and commenting too, man. The commenting is just as important as subscribing. Another special guest with us today, man. I got my boy Mike Gilmore, who is first and foremost, he's a patron of Sophisticuts. Been around a while, man, but was one of the first participants of our Father Forum that we had initially. And man, he just became a integral part of the movement, a great example of what the dynamics of the movement is about. So again, man, let's welcome my boy Mike Gilmore. What up, Mike?
Hey, what up, Reg, man? I appreciate that intro, man. That's kind
man, you know what I'm saying? I worked on that. That shit like Dougie Fresh
I feel pretty
intro.
That's pretty good, man. I feel important over here, man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. Number one, that's pretty good. I told you I wanted to get on here one day, jump on here and chop it up with you, man. So
Mike, tell us and I should have gave you that part of your intro, my bad.
You good.
But tell us about Mike. Tell us about what you do, how many kids you got. Just you.
All right, well, like you say, my name is Mike Gilmore. I come from Chicago, born and raised Chicago. Been out here in Dallas for about 6 years now. I'm a flight attendant. I'm a flight attendant. fly the country. Yeah. I have one kid, one boy, 5 years old. Just had a birthday, Corona birthday on March 30th.
Right,
he didn't do nothing. Yeah, man. So other than that, man, I just work, try to be the best parent I can be, pretty much in life, man.
You married? You single?
No, I'm single. Definitely single. Not married. Never married. Just that's me right there, man.
I got you. What's your son? Give us your son's name.
His name's Mason. Mason, man, coolest kid ever.
And he is super cool, y'all. I'm telling you, Mason done evolved, man, coming in here. You know what I'm saying? It was
a task, but you know what? I stayed with it, man, because that's the only way to do it. Kids get used to stuff. I tell you that.
And he didn't open up, man. Shout out to Mason. And the reason why I say, Mike, you are really intricate to what the movement is about, because just like you explained, man, that you are not married. You are part of a co-parenting situation.
True.
And you are the father of a son. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And Mason just turned
5.
Right? So he really in that window where you getting to create that space where y'all kind of recognize each other.
Yes. Yeah.
First and foremost, let's go ahead and retroact life and tell people what your parenting, what your parents looked like.
My parents, okay. Well, I grew up in a single parent household, of course, like most people, right? Because you see them come on this show. Well, I grew up with my mom. My mom raised me and my older brother. He's 2 years older than me.
Okay.
We never really had a male in the house with me. She had a boyfriend that lived with us for maybe 8 years out of life. I kind of called my stepdad, but it's not like official. They never were married or anything like that. Gotcha. So that's pretty much how we were raised. My grandfather was pretty much the male figure in my life growing
gotcha.
up, until he passed away. But other than that, yeah, my mom raised us well, actually. She worked a lot of jobs, kept us busy with activities like sports and video games and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much how I was brought up, man. Yeah. Right
on. And just kind of, if you're able to kind of replay some of your childhood or some of your teenage years or when you got in your 20s, do you think there was an effect, whether it be negative, positive, whatever it is? Was there any kind of effect from not having that male presence?
I would have to say yeah, and that's something that I definitely talked about in life. I really feel like it's that the support factor or just the confidence level,
right?
When it comes to things that I did in my youth. I talked about this one time, like as far as me, I've never been that confident of a person, and I felt like that was the lack of having a male figure in my life to show me how to take charge, lead, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like a lot of I know a lot of people, you know, say that my mom and dad came to all my games and all that. Like I didn't have that, you know. Plus, like I say, just simple stuff, like just showing you know, just how to do things as a potential man growing up, or a boy growing up. I didn't really have that, you know. So yeah, it definitely affected me in a lot of ways, as far as, like I say, confidence and stuff like that.
And I can really see that, man, just because I'm kind of playing it in my head, you know what I'm saying? And shout out to your mom, just because I can't even imagine how women have to look at two sons and say, like, I have to be the instrument that carries them through to manhood.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a big believer, and again, this is no discredit to any mom or any grandmother, anybody that's raising. I just always think, and I really think there is a lot of truth in it, that it takes a man to raise a man.
Yeah.
And not necessarily raise a man by himself,
Right.
but into manhood.
Yeah. And you know, I remember growing up, my mom used to always use the term, you know, I'm your mommy and your daddy, you know, and we just roll with that because we didn't know no better. But then when you get older, and especially when you have kids, like I said, I have a child now, I kind of see the dynamic of the two, you know, even when it comes to just discipline, you know. Right. It's like, you know, for me, I never whip my child or anything, but at the same time, my tone is all I really need, you know, or just certain things, like, you know, when he gets, you know, out of his body a little bit and I straighten him up, he knows, you know, and I feel like he listens to that. But like I say, other than, like I say, as a woman, when you tasked with that, they do it, man. I mean, however it may be, they definitely do it. But like I say, it's still things that they lack in that department of showing us. They can't show me how to be a man, unfortunately.
And Mike, I just believe that, you know, just from a earthly and a universal standpoint, that everything is yin and yang.
Yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying? So true. I just think that that's the dynamic that, and especially in our community, a lot of times, a lot of our mothers and grandmothers don't understand about saying that I'm your mother and your father.
Yeah. That
we are discounting the need for that yin and the yang.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we talk about it on and off the show a lot of times. That's why you can get on social media and see our women wishing each other happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
And really understanding where each other coming from. You know what I'm saying? And I always say a lot of that is our fault because of our absence.
Right.
That's what forces any woman to have to think I'm your mother and your father. Right. But one thing about that statement is that it's impossible.
Yeah.
There's no way. That's like you telling your son, like, look, I'm your daddy and your mom.
Yeah, and that can never be the truth. I can never feel that, bro.
And no father, no man wants that to be true. I never want to have to tell my kids, like, look, I'm your daddy and your mom.
Yeah, man.
Count me out on that one. And that's the thing about sometimes the deficiency that we have created. We have created a norm around that deficiency to where cats like yourself, me, once we get older, is when we recognize, like, okay, like, even though I had a good childhood, there were some deficiencies.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me. Yeah, I as a new parent, I can honestly say I had no idea what I was doing, and as a father, and how to proceed as a father. You know, for me, the only thing I really knew is just make sure I financially could support my child. That's all. Like, make sure I go to work, make money, and take care of him that way. Right. All the rest of the stuff his mama can do. That's how I thought. You know what I'm saying? Like, he don't need me like that. Like, his mama got him. And when he get older, then we can figure it out, right? But, you know, quickly I learned, like, that's not going to be the case. That can't be the case because, you know, when they're young, they need you, you know? And that's something, like I say, that's something I never thought about because I never had a person to really to gauge that by, you know?
Or maybe, Mike, that's the only thing that you thought you were missing. I just think even if my dad just showed up with a check or he just showed up with some money, or
definitely had those moments in life where, you know, you go through certain times, you ask your mama for some money for something, and she tell you, I don't have any. Like, man, if I had a dad, you know what I'm saying, he could have came and gave me that money. Yeah, that's definitely a big thing too. Yeah, that's definitely one of those things. But also that's how, I was kind of raised. Like my mom, like I said, my mom worked a lot to make sure we were financially good to live, And I'm not saying we were good, well off, but we might have had much, but she didn't make it seem like that, when she worked. So that for me, that's how it instilled in me, just work, And so even when my son came up, or came about, for me, it was just go to work, make the money, and just everything else will figure itself out. But, quickly I realized like, nah, I gotta be there, and that's when stuff started getting real, in my opinion, for me, as far as being a father. But yeah, man, it's been a learning experience. Like I say, it's.
And Mike, we were talking about it a little bit before we started shooting. That's the educational part on the difference between being present and creating that presence.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? See, sometimes us as fathers, and especially when you get into that breadwinning lane, when you get into that provision lane, we think that that's our only job.
Right.
Like, look, I'm here to provide, or that's the stamp that we want to put on everything. Like, man, look, I'll take care of you. Like, but kids, whether it's in a co-parenting situation, whether it's in a relationship situation, our kids consume information the same.
Yeah.
They don't know about our status.
Right.
Your kids don't know whether you're married or not, especially when you're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds.
True.
Ask your son what single or married mean. He has no clue.
He gonna look at me like I'm crazy.
And when he look up, all he see is mommy or daddy or lack thereof.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that's a lot of times I think we get the misconception that our kids understand things that they don't understand.
Yeah.
We understand our relationship status. We understand that you single, I'm married, this person over here, that person. All they understand is that presence.
Yes. Yeah. And that was a big thing when me and his mother were together, when we separated, for me, it was a tough time because, like I say, when we talked about this earlier too, like I never envisioned my child growing up in a house so separate from me. So once that happened, because I lived with my son for the first year and a half or so, and then once that happened, it was such a crazy time in my life because I didn't know how to gauge, because dealing with the breakup from his mom and our issues and then trying to still co-parent, it was a very difficult time to try to navigate through. So like I say, I kind of disconnected myself and just worked and figured that was going to be the way I could just contribute. And other than that, everything else will work itself out. But then quickly I realized like he needs me, as far as like you say, I need to be there. My son plays soccer. And he's a really good soccer player, even at 5. And one thing that I told myself, like, if I can't do anything else, make sure I'm just there. So when he looks up, he knows, like, my dad's gonna be here. If nothing else, he gonna be there for that, and all that. And that's one of the things, like you say, yes, it's that navigating through stuff like that,
And I'm gonna tell you one of the stories that really solidified me as a father is maybe my girls were in the 3rd or 4th grade, and they wrote, they was doing a little assignment about who's your hero.
Okay.
And and they both put my dad as my hero, but their reasoning is what solidified me as a father. It didn't have nothing to do with what I buy them, or both of them was like, look, my dad is always there for me.
Man, that's awesome.
And that's one of the things that that has to be in place for fathers, regardless of the situation. As hard as the breakup was with Mason's mom, that still had no bearing. And maybe all of us have to go through some trial and error. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you thought that just picking up my work and taking extra flights or whatever was just going to make sure I was financially there. But going through that trial and error phase, you had to get an understanding to say, like, look, even if me and mama ain't together, my son got to have me.
I got to be there.
I got to create that presence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just like, and Mike, I'm just thinking as we sitting here, man, I remember seeing you at the fair last year. And me and you stopped, talked to each other for a couple seconds. He took off running, and your focus went to where the daddy focus got to go. Like, Reg, I'm gonna let you, man. I got to go over here.
I got to go get him
and chase down Mason.
He ready.
But that right there, man, those are the moments that create the presence.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And you got to think, man, we were the day we was at the fair, man. I've been to Texas State Fair, man, probably 15, 20 times. I have never seen that many people.
It was crazy that day. I thought that was normal for y'all.
Man.
I'll never go back again because of that. That's how I was thinking. I'm not coming back.
But the point is even amongst all them thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know. There's so many people out there, bro.
There's a lot of people.
But your son still felt safe because look, I know my pops, even when I get to running around and when I get to moving around, I got my pops is still looking for me. He's still gonna be that security blanket.
Yeah.
And even like I said, Mike was one of the cats who was at our first forum, and we had it in here. But one of the most impressive things amongst all the cats, we had so many different generations. We had the old heads, we had the in between, we had some young cats.
Yeah.
But man, when I tell y'all, Mike was literally taking notes. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
That was more impressive to me than anything that I saw that night, because Corey and I, we had our stuff and I was on the whiteboard and doing some things, but it meant a lot to me to see that, because it's cool that when you see cats locked in visually.
Yeah.
But when I can see you physically saying, look, I'm going to take initiative to go and write this stuff down to implement some of it, or okay, that's good. Let me jot that down, because that says a lot about, first of all, it says a lot about your self-awareness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just like you saying, I didn't have a father. I was out here doing things that I didn't know how to do, or I didn't know how to navigate. But I'm in an environment right now where I can soak this information up. Let me soak it up.
And that was the biggest thing. I remember when you put that forum together, I knew instantly I was going to be there, because I'm like, like I said, I was going through that period where, like I said, as a father, I didn't know I felt like I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And in my head, nothing I was doing was working. Like I go get my son, I just felt like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm supposed to take him to go get some toys. I'm supposed to go play, go to the park. What do we? You run that gamut every time. It's like, it's got to be more to this, just that. And then I get here, and like you say, it was so many different types of guys here that showed up, from, like you say, the OGs to like the young guys. And as everybody was speaking, it was like gems being dropped left and right. And for me, I couldn't let them pass by. And like I said, a lot of things you guys were talking about, it just hit home for me, because it was like, all right, I don't have to be perfect with this, like you say, presence is a big deal, and it's those moments that y'all kind of instilled in my head at that time, like that those are moments that you spend with the kids is what they're going to remember. It ain't about how many toys you buy them, and all, because you buy them a toy today, by next week they off that toy. That toy is somewhere tucked in the corner somewhere, they don't even play with it, but they're going to remember that time you went and kicked the ball around with them in the park or whatever like that. And like I said, y'all were, I think one of the biggest things you wrote on the board, I think it's the four keys to fatherhood or something like that, but the legacy, and then you put these 3 bullets in front of it. And that was the thing that really hit me, because I was like, all right, if I expect my son to really look at me as a special person in his life, I have to give him something to look like it as if I'm special, and that was the thing. I started this thing last summer where I took my son on the end of the summer trip, and I tell myself every year I'm going to do that, because that's something that we can do with each other, where he's going to look forward to. And to this day, he still asks me about it. When we going to the beach? We go back to the beach. And those are the things that I kind of I learned from that forum, And so like I say, I still look at those notes to this day, bro. I promise you I do.
and Mike, man, I promise you, man, a lot of what we evolve with now, or what we have evolved to with the movement, come from seeing moments like that. Like, man, there's cats out here that really need this stuff. And at the time, man, based on what I was going through, I needed it. You know what I'm saying? Cats don't create spaces where we can really bounce that type of stuff off of each other, man. And a lot of the movement, the forum, the apparel, the podcast, all of this stuff, man, people really think that it came to me from a business perspective. Like, oh man, he started an apparel company. He like, man, this stuff came because I needed to create a space, man, where I could, Mike, we on YouTube right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that know me, man, know even when it comes to what happened to my daughter, I still can't tell that story without crying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It ain't like you come to the forum. I was crying at the forum.
Yeah, you were. Talking about your daughters.
And that's the thing. People have to understand I truly and genuinely created this movement in this space to give people like you, people like me, people like everybody a space to come and say, like, man, look, I have some gaps, man, and how do I fill them gaps?
And that's like I say, that's the beauty of it, because I guess as men, and I learned that at that forum as well, because like I say, it was so many, if the age range amount of people that were there that had literally like the same stories almost. It showed a lot, because as guys, I feel like we internalize a lot of stuff. We keep it all inside, and then we don't ever have that space to get that out. You know, we just try to figure it out as best we can, and if work, it work. If it don't, it don't. But at the same time, we never really talk about it. You know, and that was the thing about that forum. Like, I learned, like, man, I'm not in this alone as far as not knowing what I'm doing per se, or
and not to cut you off, Mark, but just like what we said in the beginning, you're not alone in the fact that you are about to be, or you are a first generation father.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Too often, and especially in our community again, cats got to understand that if there was no roadmap for you, how do I create a roadmap for my son?
Yeah. And
you do that by going and saying, like, look, let me get around some other cats who I've seen be successful, or some cats who can tell me about their failures.
Yeah.
And keep me from having to go down that road. You know what I'm saying? That's what this environment, our dialogue right now is about, is saying, like, man, look, when I get in this spot, instead of, like you saying, instead of just internalizing, you can go to your head like, man, let me holler at Reg.
Let me call Reg.
Or let me holler at another cat I connected with. Or let me, you know what I'm saying? I know Reg, they do the Monday night calls. Let me jump on a call, and that's what the space is for, man. Because one thing as fathers that we got to understand every day, all day, is that we owe it to our kids. To create a legacy.
100%. I agree with that 100%. And like you say, like being a first generation father, man, like you say, is you learn on the job.
Man, come on.
And it's a lot of trial and error, and there's a lot of error, I'll tell you that. And it can as a person that wants to know everything that you do and want to have it all figured out, it's frustrating at times, you know. And then you factor in all the other mitigating factors with the co-parent, with the other parent, and just life in general. It just becomes a big burden. If you keep that in, it hurts. But when you got forums like this and guys you can, like you say, can lean on, it just makes it that much better. Especially when you know that these guys have been through that as well. This not something just new on you. Like this has been going on, and until we kind of put it out there and try to figure it out as a group, it's gonna continue. We can just break that cycle right here and there, and just get this going.
And Mike, the absenteeism of father, that's just like we going through the corona, we going through whatever it is. That's a virus, and especially in our community, man, that's a virus that's killing our people. It's killing the structure of our families, and it's killing the structure of what we look at when it comes to parenting. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just because you co-parenting, you still parenting. Parenting don't look different because one is married and one is single. No. Now it may look different from an internal standpoint, but externally, if anybody sees you and his mama at the game, they don't know what y'all status is, and most people don't care.
And that's exactly how it is.
You know what I'm saying? They just if when Mason get to when he a senior and y'all walking him out and you know they just gonna announce y'all as his parent.
That's it. And that's how it should be. And that's exactly how we strive for it to be. You know, like I say, when he was young, we made a decision that we were going to do this. And it was for the betterment of him as well. So, you know, he was young and didn't know much. You know, they don't know what's going on. Like you said earlier, kids don't know what's going on, nor do they care. And like I say, like we make everything as smooth as possible. Like I say, don't say there's no bumps in the road during the course, but if you focus on the kid, everything will work itself out, man. But like I say, it's a very different dynamic when you don't have your kid in the household that you live in. And that's where I struggled at the beginning with that. You know, I still do. I'm not acting like I got it all figured out now, 5 years later, but it's still one of those things where I still try to figure it out on the fly. Because like I said, I travel for a living. Life hits you, life things happen, and it's like, all right, how can we make this work and make it work better?
And Mike, that's a great dynamic too, because people automatically assume because you in a relationship, you married or whatever it is. Like, man, look, when you and this is one thing, and this is another piece of advice I'm finna give everybody out here. In the black community, a lot of times what happens is we have children, male and female, and it's just not talking about the men having children with women having children with men as well. But we do no research on that person's family dynamic.
Yeah.
We do no research on that person's philosophy on family. Yes. We do no research on that person's upbringing. We do no research, and I'm not saying all of us, but I'm saying 90% of the time, we have to find that out after we have kids with that person.
Yeah.
And that does not change because me and the mother aren't together. That still happens in married households every day. Like, man, if you have two different philosophies on rearing kids, on raising kids, on what family and parenting look like, regardless of whether y'all in the house or not, you still got to find that common ground.
You have
to say, look, can we agree to disagree on that? Or, okay, we both agree on this. Okay, we both disagree with that. But until, as parents, in the house or not, until y'all find a space to say, look, I recognize how you came up, you recognize how I came up, so how do we implement that into our kids?
Right. And and that is true. I remember somebody told me, like, when you start dating somebody, you should probably ask them, the first question you probably ask them is who's your mom, who's your daddy type deal.
Right.
Or you want to try to meet them as quickly as possible, see who
you
raised this
with.
person,
right.
and see who you dealing with, because that's usually where it comes from, because a lot of our philosophies come from our upbringing. So I agree with you 100% on that. As far as when you're dealing with somebody, you should get to know who they are and how they were brought up and stuff, because that's going to determine potentially how that child will be raised on their end, and like I say, that can be a big issue, especially if you thinking one way and they're thinking another.
Man, and that's where I can see, and that's where it came to me, man, because I'm just playing it out in my head. Is that's where it can be difficult if the child is coming from one house to the next house.
Yeah,
is because you feeling like I gotta kind of rinse some of this stuff. It's like the child coming home dirty.
Yeah.
Like, man, why you sitting over here with all this dirt on them?
So as a guy that coaches, so it's exactly like that. So in one breath, you're trying to, like you say, do everything uniform. Try to keep the same. Bedtimes, certain things, food, all that stuff. But then you realize, like, well, I don't really like that, like, so when you come over here, we not probably gonna do that, and vice versa,
right?
So it's a very dynamic thing, and it's tough at times, it is tough. But like you say, like, I feel like as long as everybody got the overall best interest of the kid, and then I think all of it'll work itself out, because there are things that my son may do, and it's no knock against mom, that he may do at while he's at his mom's house, that when he comes over here, I'm like, oh, no, we're not doing that, But, it's probably the same way when he leaves my house and goes there,
And that's
just what you deal with when you jumping from house to house as far as co-parenting.
But it also happens internally in houses that are together. And that's what people got to understand. Like, man, some philosophies are embedded in people.
Yeah.
And that's whether they married to the person they had kids with or not. And especially when it comes to father. Let's say, and we're gonna get deep for 2 seconds. Let's say, you marry a woman, or you have a child with a woman who has daddy issues.
Okay.
Who father wasn't there, or they despised them, or whatever. Now, when it comes to raising a child in that environment, because that's embedded in her until something else gets rid of it, or you create a sense of security that was never there. But that takes time.
Yeah.
So when it comes to raising a kid, it's hard if one entity doesn't respect the hierarchy of how things are supposed. If let's say the woman is not respectful of the position of fatherhood, you see what I'm saying? Because I never saw that. My mom never saw her father, or he wasn't active or whatever. Now, what happens is that woman does not respect the position.
Yeah. So
it's not necessarily that she trying to debunk what you doing or whatever it is. It's just like saying, I have this sense of insecurity, so I'm gonna tell you things based on when I think your daddy gonna leave, or when I think your daddy gonna stop being active, or when I think he gonna skate on us. You know what I'm saying? And that's what, even in married households, in separate households, whatever it is, sometimes those dynamics, and again, that's the space for the father figure movement or whatever it is, because even if Mike don't deal with his issues, or don't have a space to deal with them, now you don't know that there's an issue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If I got a problem with, let's say you're one of them cats that just say, you know what, my daddy wasn't there, I ain't gonna be there.
Yeah.
And that's easy to do.
Yes, it is.
That's easy to do. But if we create a space where you can say, you know what, I know my pops wasn't there, but I know a lot of active fathers that I can interact with, or I can come and talk with. Now that creates, just like what we're saying, that creates a space where you to grow.
Yeah.
To say, you know what, maybe I don't know it all, so let me see what she talking about.
And like I say, that's the beauty of this. But like going back to what you were saying about the whole respectful of the dynamics of both parents, I feel like a lot of men, when they're in those situations, and I think a lot of them are, because I think a lot of women have grown up in households that didn't have male figures or fathers or whatnot. So like you say, they're I call it a more of a survival instinct in a sense in that case. So they are going to make sure that the kid and themselves are good at the demise of everybody around them if they need to. And it's all respect lost and all that. And I feel like a lot of times when men deal with those type of situations, those are the moments a lot of men just choose not to really deal with.
Man, say that.
And they just basically decide, like, you know what, I'm not about to deal with it. I'm not going to deal with I'm not about to deal with disrespect and all this. I'm out. And then of course the women's not going to trip. They like, whatever. I already knew you was going to do that type deal, because that's what they probably used to, right? So it's one of those dynamics of like, when you are in those situations, I see, and not to promote or say that's what they should do, but I can see how a lot of men end up in those situations. Because if you didn't grow up with a father in your life, you don't have a knack in you to sit there and fight through that and just stay there and stand. Your thing gonna be the flight too.
I'm gone.
You out of that.
And that's the thing.
And it's the easy thing to do.
And that's what I was just gonna say, Mike. Is sometimes instead of pushing forward, it's easier to push back.
Just get out of there.
Like, I'm gone. And that's on everybody's radar, because again, we are a product of the environments that we are in. You know what I'm saying? Just like your environment, you remember hearing your mother say, I'm your mama and your daddy
all the time.
But as you come out here and start navigating your own life, having your own children, now I have to go back and reset that thinking.
Yeah.
And say, you know what, man? I understood that because that was my circumstance as a child, but that's not my child's circumstance.
Yeah.
And see, a lot of times that's what creates the distance between two parents, is because we don't have the space to swallow our pride and say, you know what, let me let go of how I was raised, because that was my parents' job. You know, if your mom did what she had to do because of the circumstance.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with your current circumstance.
Yeah.
And that's the part, and not to cut you off, Mike, but that's the part that people sometimes won't let go of.
Yeah. Like I say, even in my early parenting days, I felt like that was a detriment to me because I kind of just let his mother just go ahead and take everything. Because I'm used to my mom doing everything. Like, just do everything. You go ahead and do everything. I'm just, if you need something, let me know type deal, you know? And I'm like, no, that's not my role. Like if I'm going to expect to be in my child's life as a true male figure, I can't sit back and just be on call for whatever you need.
Right.
I need to be active. I need to be in there. I need to be doing things with my son. And like I say, it's a progress, but it's a process. But at the same time, it's something you have to want to do. Because like I say, a lot of guys just, and I wish it wasn't like that, but like you say, upbringing has a lot to do with it. A lot of guys just choose not to have that battle or play that battle out. It's just like it's easier just to pay the money and go about your business, you know, and rinse and repeat almost a lot of times.
Man, that's really a good analogy, rinsing and repeating. And fellas, this is something that I do admire about Mike and cats like Mike is sometimes we let the financial piece determine a lot of how we parent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Especially when that child support kick in, or especially when the mama get kind of vindictive or she get, you know, because one thing about, and especially a scorned woman, if the relationship has gone bad, whoever was right and whoever was wrong, everybody's ego kick in and everybody's attitude and everybody's character kicks in.
Yeah.
Not thinking about the child.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like a lot of what is done, and I'm not blaming women or men. It's just the adult part of us kicks in and say, look, my feelings hurt, or you did this and you did that and you did this, not understanding that when the smoke clears from the relationship or from the decisions that somebody made, this child still got to be parented.
Got to be parented. Yeah.
And it can't be parented by one or the other.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I say that we are making normal a lot of times, is that we allow the adult part to push one person away or and then the other person, and 9 times out of 10 it's the woman.
Yeah.
That says, you know what? Oh man, you sorry so and so, and you ain't doing this and you ain't doing that. Now it's about child support, or it's about not paying child support, or it's about what you ain't doing or what you are doing. It has nothing to do with just like I said, them moments at the fair. It has nothing to do with who at the game. It has nothing to do with, you know what I'm saying? And we got to start understanding. And you bringing up, man, one of the most valid points that we done had on any podcast is that you cannot condition your mind to say, if I'm financially doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm taking care of my kids.
Yeah, that is something that, like you say, the majority of us men, we definitely go into that kind of scenario, focused on, because we feel like that's what we have to do. And I had to really step back from working a lot, because I don't work as much anymore, because I realized that by me working so much, by me making all this money, it's taking time away from my kid. And that time that I'm working, I can literally be spending with him at his practice, at his games, at his doctor's appointments, stuff like that. And those are the things he's gonna care about and remember. He don't care about what's in my bank account, because he don't care. All he wants to do is play, and basically have you there, you know. And that's one of the things that, I think once you get to that point in life where you realize that time is something that you have to invest in, and not this financial part. Because he's gonna be taken care of. If you care about your kid, he's gonna be taken care of, or she's gonna be taken care of. But that time that you spend with them, that's something that you got to muster up in you to say, I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna get on my knees and crawl around and play with these toys on the ground for about 10 minutes. That's all I got, is about 10 minutes. and that's gonna mean that much more to him versus me just being like, I'll do it tomorrow, you know, I'll do it next week or whatever. So it's those moments when you realize, like, all this money, I'm gonna have to pay that. I'm gonna have to pay that anyway. You gonna put me on child support? I gotta pay that anyway. So guess what? Now I gotta make sure I still have time for you. You know, and that's the thing, setting that time aside, because that's what all the kids really require. To be honest,
man, it's so many kids that I run across, and especially coaching and being around AAU and all this stuff. Man, there's so many kids that 10, 11, 12 years old, they should not know what child support is.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? They should not know, like, my daddy ain't sent no child support check, or,
you know,
or you know, I hear a lot of these kids kind of make fun of each other, like when one of the kids might have a lot of shoes and you the Jordan kid is like, oh man, that's a child support kid. That's you know what I'm saying?
You know, the child support system is very unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate thing and very like mismanaged thing. In a sense, like I say, like a lot of people do use that to an advantage to monetarily come up, almost, right? Like you say, no kid should know about my child support check ain't came in.
Right.
Now, while I'm not saying child support is not needed, because I understand there are fathers out here that's not doing what they're supposed to do.
You got some low life.
They should be paying their way.
Right.
They need to be getting that money taken off the top. But it shouldn't be something that you should be trying to, I don't know what.
Leverage. It shouldn't be leverage.
Yeah, that's a perfect word for it. Because a lot of men are out here doing what they're supposed to do. Like I pay child support, and I still go half on whatever my son requires or needs, because that's how I feel like I should do. You know, and it doesn't matter if I got put on child support because it was vindictive or whatever. I don't know what it was done for. All I know is I'm on it, but that doesn't have nothing to do with me, because, you know, I got to pay it. But that still doesn't mean I shouldn't still be active in my life, in his life, in other aspects as well. Because so that's how I look at things like that. But yeah, that child support thing is it's a mess, man. That's a whole other topic show right there,
and especially, brother. You know, being in the barbershop, man, that's one of the most sticky subjects that I try to stay as far away from as I can, because
my gosh.
I just see how I'm gonna tell you, like I need to implement this. Like, you know, when you in a customer service business, they say don't talk about religion, sexuality, politics. Yeah. We're gonna put child support on there. Like,
child support is one of the things
in the barbershop, bro. If you bring up child support,
it's gonna bring up all kind of emotions, bro.
Hey, bro, I'm telling you, man,
it's
like,
an ugly thing, man.
It is, man. But again, man, and to kind of wrap things up, Mike. Okay. Even talking about child support, even talking about co-parenting, even talking about different upbringings of parents and all of that type of stuff, man. That's why having cats like you on the podcast and coming to forums, and because we are trying to cover every base of fathering. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And and even I had to kind of check myself on you know what my guests look like, and because I don't want people to think the only way that you're a good father is that you're married. Yeah. Because the mothering aspect, most people can look at whether a mother is married or not, and look at them like, oh man, you're a great mama, and you know what I'm saying? And that is killing what people think about fathers. Yeah. Even though it's supposed to uplift the single mothers, and it's supposed to make sure that they're getting their flowers and their trophies. For sure. But again, we have to, and especially in our community, we have to squash the narrative of the I am your mama and your daddy talk. Yeah. Or happy Father's Day to all the mothers out there. We have to do our part to completely dispose of that, man. Like I want to start going through these years, and social media is 100% clear of any happy Father's Day wishes to the single moms. Yeah. We need to create a space where that does not exist.
You know, it's unfortunate because it's almost because of the way people, or things that people have been going through, women in general for that moment, things they've been through. It's almost hard to kind of squash that in a sense. The only thing you can do is just be the best father you could be, right? Because it's still going to happen, you know, and it's unfortunate, but you said something about the showing that you don't have to be married to be a great father, and that's a big deal, and that's a really big deal, because like I say, a lot of people that in my situation, like I say, I co-parent. I feel like a lot of guys in my situation, I feel like you really can't be the best father you can be unless you are in that situation where you're married potentially or living with your child. Not understanding that, you know, maybe those people that are married not having the best relationship with their kids that you're having.
Man,
you know?
it's no easier to parent.
Yeah.
There's just some different dynamics.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The dynamics are different.
Right.
But just imagine if you are in the household with the mother or with your wife, but the relationship is strained, or it's an abusive relationship, or it's, you know what I'm saying? Like all of that stuff, all it is you and I have a different fathering experience.
Right.
It does not make one better than the other. Don't make one easier than the other.
Mm-hmm.
They are just different experiences. It's just like your career versus mine.
Yeah.
I know nothing about being a flight attendant. You ain't never cut no hair, but that don't make one experience better than the other one. And that's what this podcast, everything, especially on the couple topics that we hit, man. I want to hear from the ladies out there. I want to hear from the moms and those who are co-parenting, and so we can create a space, even if you don't agree with everything we're saying. Put what you disagree with about, so again, we can create some dialogue. We can create some closure, and some gaps. We can bridge some of these gaps, man, to make parenting easier for both sides. Mm-hmm. But from a fathering perspective, we just have to understand that being present and not perfect should be everybody's stamp. That should be your stamp on. I don't care if it's child support. I don't care if it's a bad relationship. I don't care if it's a bad marriage. I don't care, whatever it is. You should be able to always pull out that present, not perfect stamp. You know what? I'm gonna deal with child support for a whole minute. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna deal with this bad relationship for a whole minute. I'm gonna deal with going through a divorce. I'm gonna deal with whatever you're dealing with, because I choose to be present and not perfect.
And I think once you make that decision, everything works itself out. Like I say before, I felt like I was lost in the game, and then once I decided to just be there and everything, it was different. It was just a game for me personally. Now, like I say, he's 5 now, but when he turns 7, 8, 9, maybe he'd be able to tell me like, yeah, I remember when I was 4. I'm like, that's perfect. I remember. Good, you remember. But yeah, man, that presence thing is a big deal. It's a big deal. It's
a huge deal, Mike. And again, folks, man, this is my boy Mike Gilmore. One of the cornerstones of the shop, but also one of the cornerstones of what we need the movement to be about as well, man. So again, comment on anything you like, dislike. Hopefully you liking everything. Share the content, man, and subscribe, man. So to our father figure community, to everybody out there, man, again, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. For my boy Mike Gilmore, I'm Reggie George. Y'all have a good one.